these kids are going to be deprived of community, friendship, and learning opportunities out of cruelty.
It absolutely is a win.
It's the latest development in a heated national debate around transgender athletes in women's sports.
We will not allow men to beat up, injure, and cheat our women and our girls. From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
President Donald Trump following through on a campaign promise, signing an executive order titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports, which he says will be enforced immediately. Joining the president, women and girls of all ages, like 12-time All-American pro swimmer Riley Gaines, who's been waiting for this day for years, speaking to Nightline in 2022.
Not only were women kind of put in this position where we have biological males competing against us, we were put on the back burner for biological males.
If one girl is knocked off of a team because a male competed on that team, one girl is knocked off of a podium, that is one too many.
This is a huge development. It's a big cultural issue. It's divided the country.
Under the new order, schools that don't comply risk having their funding cut.
It's also a maximum use of federal power, using the power of the purse to tell them how they should run their sports.
Advocates celebrating the move, arguing that allowing trans athletes to compete could give an unfair advantage.
In many ways, it's President Trump finishing what he started in his first term, to again ensure fairness, safety, and privacy for women and girls.
But trans advocates say it's discrimination and a violation of human rights. We first sat down with Leah Thomas in 2022 when she came out as trans as a UPenn swimmer and found herself at the center of this fiery debate.
What has the reaction been in the trans community? Explain that a bit.
This executive order is among other executive orders and other legislative moves to further police bodies and police who is woman enough to fit into that category and be allowed to compete.
Thomas won an NCAA title that year in the 500-yard freestyle. Her success is quite rare. According to the NCAA president, out of 510,000 NCAA athletes, fewer than 10 are known to be trans. And yet her victory ignited a heated debate in women's sports.
You set the record. In many ways, do you fear that your success in some part triggered some of this backlash that we're seeing now?
It was hard not to sort of place a little bit of blame on myself that it's not because of me, it's because Republicans in positions of power are trying to control and limit our autonomy and how we can live our lives. And if it wasn't me, it would have been the next trans woman.
On the one hand, trans athletes and the people who support them say, look, this is who they are. And they would like to compete in the athletics that they love. On the other side, of people are saying it's just unfair. Even some people who support equality and equal opportunity and a flourishing life in our society for trans people feel this is a step too far.
According to a 2023 Gallup poll, 69% of Americans believe transgender athletes should only be allowed to compete on teams that conform with their gender assigned at birth.
We're talking about 12-year-olds who have lived their whole lives as who they are and are being asked to then play on a different gendered team.
Skylar Baylor made history as the first openly trans male athlete to compete in NCAA Division I sports, swimming for Harvard in 2015.
Skylar, what comfort do you give to those who are feeling like this is a real turnaround, a setback for trans rights and the trans community?
I think this is something that's critical, and to validate those emotions while also reminding that we are absolutely capable of moving through this.
Bodies come in all shapes and sizes. There's no one single determinative factor in athletic performance. It's just too complicated to narrow down to one thing.
So what Trump is doing typically is sort of seizing the hottest issue and going at it with maximal force.
It's the latest move following a flurry of anti-trans executive orders.
We've gotten the woke lunacy out of our military. And now we're very importantly getting it out of women's sports. That's taking place very strongly.
He signed an executive order saying that the United States government only recognizes two sexes, male and female, for all purposes. He also banned gender-affirming care, for people under the age of 19. And now the ban on transgender athletes in school sports across the country. This is a major initiative of the earliest days of the Trump administration.
The NCAA now pledging to follow Trump's EO, saying in part, President Trump's order provides a clear national standard. The NCAA Board of Governors is reviewing the executive order and will take necessary steps to align NCAA policy in the coming days. In the wake of Trump's executive order, Lambda Legal, a firm that advocates for transgender and non-binary rights, saying in a statement, there seems no bottom to which this administration will not go to hurt and exclude transgender people, especially transgender children and youth. As for Thomas and Baylor, they say their fight is far from over.
Do you feel like this is defeat? Is the fight over?
It is not over, and now is a time more than ever that trans people as a community have to band together and stick tight and support each other.
I really want to validate that this is a really difficult time for so many of us. I think being trans will always be a superpower. It might not feel like that right now. Maybe Trump can't see that, the government can't see that, but there are so many people who do see you.
With this executive order, the war on women's sports is over.
I think a lot of people wanted to resolve this without the hammer of federal power coming down. But I think a lot of women in sports, who have spoken out about how they feel that this is unfair to them, I think they'll welcome it. If it stands up in court, it's the end of the participation of young trans athletes in the sports that they want to play.